Insulin is a life-saving medication for people living with diabetes, but over the years, the price of the drug has soared, putting an extra cost on families who depend on
A
it.
handful of states have capped prices for insulin. Indiana, not one of them. Wayne 15's Emily Dwyer looked into the numbers and met with local families, including one who is fighting for change.
The American Diabetes Association says a significant factor behind the increasing cost of insulin is the current pricing and rebate system involving pharmacy benefit managers, manufacturers, and health insurance plans. Because of the high costs, some people skip or ration their insulin, putting themselves in danger. Now, families I talked to say they manage okay now, but they worry about the future affordability.
It was just kind of a whirlwind for all of us. We didn't even know anything about type 1 diabetes.
Now, Rachel Caldwell and her family know all about type 1 diabetes, a disease that affects nearly 1.9 million Americans, including about 244,000 children, like her son, Liam. He was diagnosed just before his 6th birthday nearly 4 years ago.
I had a blood glucose of 582, and they admitted him straight away into the ER. And then we spent about 3 days at Parkview getting his numbers under control.
Monitoring Liam's glucose levels is now part of this family's everyday life.
Wears a CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor. Open SugarMate and show me my number.
It's 104 milligrams per deciliter and steady.
So is stocking up on everything he needs, most importantly, insulin.
It's his lifeline, absolutely. Without insulin, he wouldn't be here.
But it comes at a high cost. According to the American Diabetes Association, the average price of insulin nearly doubled between 2012 and 2016. Annual spending per person increased from $2,800 to about $5,700.
We pay about $150 for one of his insulins.
Plus needles, test strips, sensors, transmitters, doctor's visits in Indianapolis, it adds up quickly.
Probably pay about $500 out of pocket for the copays, as well as, your insurance that you have to pay. That works out to be, what, 5 or 6 grand a year? What's the cost gonna be when he's 18? I mean, that's 8 years away. It keeps on going up. What's it gonna be then?
While there's no history of diabetes in Rachel Caldwell's family, there is in Tyshell Jackson's, and she was diagnosed about 1.5 years ago.
I knew that I'd be on insulin for the rest of my life.
Tyshell has already noticed an increase in prices, including for long-acting insulin pens that jumped about $30.
At some point I did think about, do I go buy my insulin or do I buy food? And that's just not a decision anyone should have to make.
She's paying about $400 every 3 months for insulin, insulin pumps, and her glucose monitors. So what happens if prices continue to rise?
I'm gonna have to get another job, so I still have to pay my rent, pay for my car, pay for my son. Should just be free. I mean, your body makes insulin for free. Mine decided to stop, and that's not my fault.
Paulding, Ohio mother Mandy Shelton is actively fighting for lower insulin costs. Her 17-year-old daughter Zoe is a type 1 diabetic, diagnosed when she was 11. These are the boxes and drawers full of Zoe's supplies.
I would never wish anybody to have diabetes. It's honestly a great struggle on my life.
With insurance, just one 10-milliliter vial of insulin for Zoe costs about $140 a month. Without insurance,
that's $300.
and depending on what else she needs, additional supplies runs them $75 to $300 a month. That is thousands of dollars a year that this family could be putting toward college.
Now, that's money we could be spending for books that we're spending on her medication. And I know she worries about that too. She hears me talk about it, the cost.
That's why Mandy is fighting to make the Affordable Insulin Now Act law. The legislation that passed the U.S. House this year would cap patients' out-of-pocket costs at $35 a month for insulin.
Families need this.
So Mandy circulates this call to action from the American Diabetes Association. It asks people to share their own stories and struggles and write their senators, encouraging them to approve the legislation and make insulin more affordable.
These kids who have type 1 diabetes and are worried about their futures, that we really need to think about them.
Now, Mandy Shelton was going to march in Washington, D.C. in support of the Affordable Insulin Now Act, but the pandemic derailed those plans. No word if or when the Senate will take up the legislation. It would need bipartisan support to pass. For a closer look at the House vote and to see how your representative voted, just head to our website, WANE.com, and look for this story. Emily Dwyer, WANE 15 News.